Hello everyone, this is Norlek. In this video I'm going to tell you a story that affected me so much and taught me in a lot of ways why the victim mentality that I used to have didn't work and why I don't have it, well, I should say why I don't have it, a lot of it now. Now I'm going to make this video in one take because I want to convey as much authenticity as possible. Now, this story is in a Norse mythology. And when I tell the story, I might be a bit wrong about what I'm telling. Maybe the information might be wrong, the names of people, the gods might be wrong. I just want to say that my main point is the theme that I'm trying to get to this video. So, some information that I might explain might be wrong. So I'm going to explain how Baldur died in Norse mythology. Now, in Norse mythology, maybe you might have heard it. There's a bunch of gods, Odin, Thor, and all of that, right? So Baldur is a god who is invincible. One day all the gods go into Asgard and they make a feast, right? And they go and they just drink meat, they get drunk and have fun and all that, and then they just throw some stuff at Baldur and they say, oh look here, just take a look, and they just throw it and it bounces off of him because it's invincible. And the reason why he's invincible is because Baldur, by the way, Baldur's a sun god. His mother Freya, or Freyja or Frigga, there's a lot of talk on which one is which and are they the same person. I don't even know. I'm not even gonna get into that. But let's just say Freyja, right? His mother Freyja, made every being promise that they're not gonna have any harmful effect on Baldur. Meaning she went on every single substance or atom, everything in the universe that promise me that you're not gonna hurt this specific person, right? But then so he's invincible that way, so nothing really can hurt him. No atom, any kind of atom can hurt him. So they just throw spears, they just shoot arrows at him, and they just bounces off, and they just laugh, right? And then Loki comes in, the god of mischief, Loki, and he's very frustrated at all of those gods. Like, how dare you take advantage of him? Like, just do this stuff at him, just throw things at him, take advantage of his existence like that, make fun of him like that, disrespect him like that. How dare you do this? And as I understood in Norse mythology, I was told stories, I haven't really read this. Loki is a god that does this all the time. Loki is a god that comes into Asgard and like the whole of gods, and they just every single one of them just faces them, just tells them their mistakes. It's like, you're doing this, you're doing that, and just kind of faces them, just tells them that kind of truth. And they don't really say anything. The only person that stops Loki is Thor. Thor's like, you're not having it, no, get out of here. And just Loki can't do anything when Thor comes around. But at this state, again, the same thing happens. Loki comes in and says, how dare you do this to Baldur? And just goes in and kind of ruins the whole mood. And of course, Thor comes in, says, yeah, you're not doing this here again, Loki, get out of here. And Loki gets out, angry. And then Loki sees Baldur's brother. Now, Baldur's brother, I forget his name. But his brother, I think his name translates into ignorance. I might be wrong on that. And he's blind, right? No brainer. So he is blind. And Loki tells to Baldur's brother, hey, why don't you join these guys? Just throwing stuff at him, just kind of they're having fun. And the ignorance, Baldur's brother says, I'm blind, I don't know where to shoot. And Loki says, don't worry, I'll guide your hand. I'll give you an arrow, I'll guide your hand. And then and that's exactly what he does. He just pulls an arrow, Loki just kind of guides him towards Baldur, shoots it at him, and just goes right through his chest. And like everyone is like, what? Wait, like did Baldur just like got pierced by an arrow? What? Like everyone's like kind of dumbfounded. It's like everyone is like this silent like horror, right? And Baldur collapses to the floor, and Baldur dies, and the grief stage. And everyone loves Baldur. Everyone in that whole place loves Baldur, and they don't want him to gone. But then he just died. The person, the god that they just loved the most, and they couldn't die, just died right in front of their eyes by an arrow. Now, how that happened was that while the Baldur's brother was shooting that arrow, Loki put or smeared or puts a mistletoe in the tip of the arrow. Now, when Freyja was making every being promise that they're not gonna hurt Baldur, she skipped mistletoe. That plant mistletoe, because there are a bunch of reasons why. I think in the mythology, I think Frigga was like, oh, this plant is too pure. I can't make him say anything. I can't make this plant vow. This plant is way too young. I can't make him do anything. So the plant is way too young and way too innocent, and I can't do anything. Right? So for some reason, Loki knew this. Maybe other gods knew this, but Loki knew this somehow, and put that in the tip of the arrow that shot Loki, that shot Baldur. He put a mistletoe in the tip of it, and it died. And of course, everyone was sad because Baldur was died. And then what happens when Baldur dies is Fimbulwinter. There's like endless snow, endless winter, right? It's like depressive. You know how we associate winter as like sadness, or like things that like in a stasis place. And if you're imagining, that's like that's what grief is kind of like. It's like everyone's kind of dull. It's like, because summer cold makes your hand feel nothing, while in summer you like it kind of burns you. You feel it. In summer, in cold, it's too dark. It's numb, right? So it comes Fimbulwinter, and after Fimbulwinter comes Ragnarok. Everyone dies. Ragnarok. There's like two versions of Ragnarok. This is a little bit off topic, but like two versions of Ragnarok is like, one of them is either Fenrir eats everything, Fenrir the wolf, which is Loki's son, or the fire giant Surtur just burns everything. But now Baldur dies. But when Baldur dies, Baldur's feminine side, right? Baldur in masculine and feminine, right? The yin yang, right? I have it here, the yin yang. Baldur's feminine side, Baldur's wife, dies from grief, and she's like, I can't exist without him, and she dies out of desperation and sadness. So they just both make a funeral for them. So they go to the underworld. So everyone is sad, and then Freyja says, no, my son isn't gone. I'm gonna bring him back. So Freyja goes to the underworld and speaks to Hela, the goddess of the underworld, and says, here, I know you're keeping Baldur there. Baldur died, but you gotta bring him back. Everyone wants Baldur. You have to bring him back. Please bring him back. Hela says, no, I can't do that. That's not how it works. Those are the rules. I can't just because you want someone, I can't just bring them back. And Freyja just like begs, please, please. And then at the end, what happens to Hela is, you know what? I'll make you a deal. If you promise every single being on the universe, or if you get the vow or like get the word of every single being or thing in the universe that they want Baldur back, then I'll bring him back. And Freyja goes on this binging, making everyone take that word, make everyone promise or whatever, just tell everyone that they just have to tell it they want Balder back. She does everyone. She goes around everyone, makes them say that, right? Because everyone loves Balder, right? Um, and I forgot to mention, Baldur in this context is seen as the soul of the universe. He's the soul of that place, and he's gone. He's the sun god, but like everyone loves him. It's the soul, right? And he's gone, and everyone wants him back. And Freyja just goes, everyone, hey, we can bring Baldur back. And then Freyja comes across to this giantess called, well, her name translates to, I think, gratitude. This giantess. But we think this giantess is Loki in disguise, because Loki's a shapeshifter. Loki, uh, you know, Loki shapeshifts all the time. So, this gratitude, and I don't even know if that's, it's I don't even know if that's, if that giantess was Loki or if it was like true. I don't know. Maybe I don't know, but like that was the way I heard the story was like, yes, that giantess is Loki, and that this giantess gratitude, Freyja speaks to her, and when she says like, hey, can you do that, the giantess says, no, I can't. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna say that. Freyja goes, why? Because I appreciated Baldur while he was here, and I don't feel his loss anymore. I appreciated while he was here, and I'm not gonna say that. I'm not gonna say what you want me to say. Yes, I mean, he is loved by everyone, but I'm not, I don't feel his loss because I appreciated him. And, her name's Gratitude. And, Freya begs instead and is like, no, I'm not going to do it. You guys didn't appreciate him while he was here. I did. You guys feel his loss. I don't. So Baldur can't really come back. Baldur just stays in the underworld. And in the underworld, Baldur and his wife are just chilling. There's nothing really bad going on with them. But the fact that Baldur died, and that's the story actually. That's how Baldur died. And the moral of the story that I'm trying to explain is like, Baldur is the soul of the universe. Baldur is you. You are the soul. You are loved in higher dimensions with gods. You have absolute love that the family's, waiting you there. And when you came here, you of course forgot everything. And that's the moment, by the way. When you come to Earth, that's what happens to you. You forget why you are here. That's the game. Because if you were to remember your infinite self, this Earth would be too easy. I mean, come on, how long do you play a very easy game if you're a gamer or whatever, if you play a mobile game or any kind of game? If it's way too easy, at some point it's just gonna get boring. You're not gonna learn much from that game. But if it's a hard and challenging game, that game is gonna have some kind of impact in your life. So as souls, we are here to learn, and you can see it as when we die, we come here as souls. So Mother loves us. We are very loved by the universe, and everyone wants it. Everyone kind of cried when we came here. And just to imagine all those higher dimensional whatever gods and that our soul used to know was like watching us with awe and like, such a big fan base and just like watching over us makes me feel loved. The fact that the mother of the universe, the mother, Freya, just loves her son so much. And here's another thing, by the way. The reason why we kiss under a mistletoe in Christmas is because of this Christmas traditions, the Christmas color themes, the white, the green, the red. It comes from this another pagan holiday called Yule. And now, Christianity adopted it. Now it became this modernized, pretty cool holiday, right? But the reason why we kiss under a mistletoe is because of that story. When we kiss under a mistletoe, when a masculine and feminine, man and a woman, kiss under a mistletoe, it is a message to Freya, to our mother. When we kiss under a mistletoe, we tell her, "Hey, mother, look, we're fine here. We love each other. You don't have to worry about us. We're okay." And when I first heard this story, I got emotional. And I'm like, wow. I didn't know a story in some mythology would affect me this much. To remind me that, oh wow, maybe I'm very loved. And I adopted that. I adopted that assumption, that healthy spiritual assumption that I am loved. And here's the thing, I don't have to, just because I adopted that doesn't mean I have to feel loved 24/7. Sometimes I don't feel loved. Sometimes I feel hated by the universe. But that's what it is. That's just a feeling. And that's why I said it's an assumption. You go with that assumption. Doesn't matter how you feel. You go with that, your focus determines your reality, right? The mentality you have. And that's what I chose, being really affected by this story, emotionally affected by this story. So that's why I want to tell this story. You are loved. And this story helped me so much, and I hope it can help you as well. So, yeah, that is why we kiss under a mistletoe. That is why we are loved by the universe. I guess that's all I'm going to say. Let me know what your thoughts are. And if I'm maybe wrong anything, maybe you can correct me on the story, but I don't really care about the correct details and stuff. This is like, I just want to convey this thing I learned. And one more thing, the mythologies in my experience are not really meant to be taken. Maybe they are, but in my experience to this point, they're not really meant to be taken seriously. Like, no, not seriously, literally. They're not meant to be taken literally in my experience. Of course, my opinion might change. I'm 23 years old. I'm young. But the people who channeled this mythologies, people who wrote these mythologies, who channeled them, they're trying to explain, I think they're trying to teach us something that cannot be explained by just in a sentence, and can only be explained through storytelling. And I think there's a lot of value in that. There's a lot people can learn from understanding the symbolic meanings of mythologies. I think that's where the real wisdom is. That's where you learn the real values. So, yeah. Thank you for watching. I'll see you whenever I see you.